is the PI on our grant, and she's co-chair of the biotech department at Mira Costa College.
Hi, Linnea. How are you?
I have a
Good morning,
feeling it's going to be
everyone.
a small group because of Good Friday.
Yeah. So all the diehards are here.
Good morning, everyone. Great for you all to be here on this Good Friday. And thank you for joining us for our Project Talk series. Welcome. My name is Dion Krupa, and I am the grant manager with the Innovate Bio grant at Austin Community College in Austin, Texas. And it's a pleasure to facilitate this presentation. Both Innovate Bio and this series of talks are funded by the National Science Foundation. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping announcements. The two presentations will be back to back, followed by a joint Q&A. Please post questions for our speakers in the chat if you would like to during their presentations, or you can wait until the end of the presentations. Additional information on the ATE Project Talk series, as well as future Innovate Bio events, can be found on the Innovate Bio website calendar of events, which we will put in the chat. We respectfully ask that you complete a survey at the end of the presentation, which helps us in planning future events. And at the conclusion of this year's spring project talks, participants will receive a certificate of attendance. And I have already hit the record button. So please join me in welcoming our first Project Talk speaker, Guy Hamilton. His presentation will provide an overview of practical strategies for building immunotherapy-focused workforce programs, including aligning curriculum with industry needs, working with limited resources, and forming strong employer partnerships. You'll hear actionable ideas for preparing students for fast-growing careers in biotechnology and immunotherapy. Welcome, Guy.
Okay, I'm ready to start sharing. All right. There we go. Thanks, Dion. It's good to see so many of you again that I used to hang out with when I was in part of the Innovate Bio group. I'm going to talk a little bit today about two kind of reports that we did as part of the ATE grant that we had a few years ago with when I was with Shoreline Community College. The first report that came out was a labor market analysis, and this is work that primarily John Carice, who I think almost everybody in this group knows, John Carice, who's recently retired, and myself. And so one of the first things we did a number of years ago, and I had a poster on this at the ATEPI conference a few years back, was a labor market analysis that, I'm sorry, that the cover is seen here, or the title page is seen here. And what John and I did was really look at the skills that were necessary for immunotherapy technician workforce. We had a great industry advisory board that guided us in the development of this, and I think I saw Carla in the group, who was one of our advisory board members for this project. A big outcome of this work was the recognition that immunotherapy technicians and the skills that were needed for these particular types of jobs were overlapped greatly with some of the work that had already been done in terms of skill standards and program development for biomanufacturing technicians, gene therapy technicians. And so when we went through this and looked at and identified skills that were required for entry-level immunotherapy technicians, the conclusion of the industry advisory board was that there wasn't a need to go out and define new skill standards, that the existing skill standards out there could be utilized for thinking about the development of an immunotherapy technician training program. As we kind of finished up that work and still had some time left on the grant, John and I started talking about, and I had actually switched positions. So for myself, I was at Shoreline Community College for for that first grant for the first report, and then I had switched to the University of Washington. And I started talking to John, and we kind of kicked around some ideas of things that we could think about of how we could take the next step with what we had done with that labor market analysis. And really, what we did was come up with this concept of like, how do we implement these things? Like, how do you build a training program based on some of the information that we got from this labor market analysis? So, what I'm going to talk about today is the contents of the second report, which is the Educating for Impact, and the work, and a lot of it kind of stemmed from the work I was doing at the University of Washington on the Bothell campus as we thought about connecting with our industry partners. So the fundamental challenges that I was encountering, and as I was talking to John, which seemed relevant to what we were doing in with the labor market analysis, and what many programs I think come to is thinking about how do we help colleges, universities think about creating workforce development programs that meet local workforce needs. And as we considered this, we think about what if we take, for example, the skill standards that existed for cell and gene therapy technicians or biomanufacturing technicians. These are great reports, skill standards that exist there, and have really detailed information about how to set up an entire program. The curriculum is available, so you can implement these new courses. But these can be very costly, right? So one, they can take a lot of program development time with faculty. They can require, if you don't have the facilities, a huge amount of startup money in terms of building labs. Um, and they can be and fundamentally they don't necessarily work in an industry relevant time scale, so they can take a long time to set up if you don't have these types of programs in your uh, uh, at your college or university. And that was pretty much the setting that I was in, coming to the University of Washington from Shoreline. We didn't have the ability to set up an entirely new program. So we thought about all these different techniques of how do you develop a strong and mutually beneficial partnership with local employers, and um, develop workforce training programs for your students. Now, as I said, I went to University of Washington in Bothell. Our campus had just started a new center for biotech innovation and training. One of the primary missions of this center, which I was working to develop, was to create a workforce development pathway to support our students entering the biotech workforce. Now, in our region, in our locality, there are about 60 biotech companies located within 5 miles of our campus. And our campus, which is a satellite campus of the University of Washington, the main campus down in Seattle, um, is a little bit more of a commuter school. So it's much more like a community college where I came from at Shoreline, where 85% of our students live within 5 miles of the campus and stay within 5 miles of a campus after graduation. So we have students that want to get educated, live and work in this area, and we have employers that need a workforce development pipeline. So that was how I embarked on kind of development in this process, and thinking about the work that John and I had done on the first report of like how do you build that when at the University of Washington Bothell, there is no workforce training program. There really, it's a very standard kind of, it's like a small liberal arts college. We don't have a huge amount of lab space. We don't have a huge amount of money to build these programs. So we set off on trying to create some industry aligned biotech program there, and we started with our industry, our the trade organization for the state of Washington, which was we started partnering with them, which was Life Science Washington. They've been a fantastic partner with us for the whole time. And what I'm showing you on the right side of the screen here is taken from a report. It's a taxonomy report that Life Science Washington worked with taxonomy to do and look at the life science workforce in the state of Washington, and this was in 2023. Within that report, they identified 9 high demand, high volume jobs within the life sciences sector. And these jobs, the ones that were starred, or they were in high volume, high demand, and they required only a bachelor's degree or lower. So with this report was really focusing on what are our 2-year and 4-year training programs to get students into the industry. So we oops, sorry. Um, we set out on this project to pick specific jobs that are high demand, high volume, and look at the ways that we could integrate lab skills and think about preparing students for these jobs. So this was kind of our alignment to start this program. So that was our goal. And we picked from these high demand, high volume jobs, we started thinking about quality control technicians, biomanufacturing technicians, bioinformaticians, and engineering technicians. And the key thing from with Life Science Washington, working with Life Science Washington, we started developing partnerships with our local companies. And so to start this project, we were working with Bristol Myers Squibb, Pfizer, Just Evotech, Pluristyx, AGC, Sana Biotechnology. These were all partners that, as I said, they're in this cluster it's 2.5 miles from our campus. And so that was a huge advantage for us to start out to have partners, having our industry trade organization supporting it, and then bringing in partners to help us think about this project. Now, what the first step of this was, and sorry, I should have mentioned in the report that we're talking about, this is a case study that's documented in the report. So you'll see kind of the broader kind of outline of how we would recommend kind of creating this type of program with limited resources using the case study of what we were doing at University of Washington Bothell. So bringing in the industry partners, the next step was really putting a faculty task force together that worked in conjunction with the industry. And we started out with a skills mapping. So working with these specific jobs, we started mapping the baseline skills, which this table over here on the left is an illustration of the rubrics that we were working with our industry partners to talk about what are these fundamental skills? What are we hearing from our industry partners? What do they need from our students if they're coming into the industry? A common kind of theme and how this project grew organically was we would get feedback that would say that we'll hire students with any STEM degree. We're going to train them. We're not so worried about the techniques. It's really these fundamental skills that are critically important. And so we started out kind of testing this. It's like, is this really true? Would you really hire it? And so then we went into a more detailed kind of exercise where, and this is a picture of our one of the interactions where we had our task force, our faculty task force, and industry partners getting together, and what you see on these tables are degree maps and then skills maps. So we would have the industry folks and our faculty looking at identifying what are the specific skills. Okay, where do we teach those skills? And so if you really don't care what major a student is in, okay, if one of it is a critical thinking or experimental design, does it matter if it's in a physics lab or a biology lab or an engineering lab? And the answer was no. For them, it doesn't matter. If you're wherever you're setting up an experiment, that's good enough. Now, the question, going back to the original question of would you hire anybody, we then had them go through with physics and engineering and say, okay, here's the student that at the end of their senior year, they've done all these skills, they've got these baseline skills, but they don't know what a cell is. They don't know what DNA is. They don't know how protein is. Would you still hire them? Going back to their original assertion. And then the answer was, oh, no, we wouldn't, right? And so then we started mapping out as identifying, okay, if they're missing some things, how do we bridge those gaps, right? If you're saying we're getting the fundamental skills that are necessary for you to get hired, what are the gaps? How do we fill those in without adding a huge burden onto our students, like that would force them maybe to do 1 or 2 more quarters? How do we leverage the skills that we have in existing courses and maybe fill gaps with kind of smaller asks for the student? So, I kind of skipped ahead. So one of the gaps was making sure they had relevant industry research experiences. So we talked about different ways in which students could get industry relevant research experiences, which was critical. And so we had research projects where we were bringing in industry mentors working with students already in our research labs. We're developing an on-campus internship model where we're building a experience where students are doing an kind of industry like or a internship like project. I'm teaching that actually right now, so I'm happy to answer questions about that after both presentations. And then we think about capstone projects and different ways in which students can have an industry relevant research experience. One of the keys way to filling in the gap, and this is highlighted in the report, was creating a biotech seminar or a short course. And so for us, we think about it as a kind of a 2 credit class. And this was the key where we looked at skills that were missing for students in their majors. If they're going to come into the industry, they have to have some knowledge and understanding of cell therapy, biomanufacturing, process development, GMP. These are just things that they're not going to get in any of their courses. So these fundamental skills they are getting in their courses, but the contextualized understanding of how these skills relate to the biotech industry or biomanufacturing, immunotherapy, students don't have the awareness of that. Our faculty don't really have the awareness of it as well. So what we developed was a course that would fill in those gaps and contextualize the learning that the students are getting within their majors to these relevant jobs. A key component of this seminar would also focus on the professional skills development. And that was another thing we kept hearing from our industry folks was these professional skills, which we would call soft skills, was actually more important than some of the technical skills. And so how are we intentional in making sure our students understand that these communication, leadership, these skills are in critical thinking and enthusiasm, that these are critically important for success. So these are things that get put into this short course. Now, what we ended up doing was creating digital badges with our industry partners and the HR folks at the local companies that students could go through. So as they're going through these courses, the requirements of the digital badges were one, if in this case we're looking at the quality assurance, quality control from the perspective of biology major. So we looked at, okay, what are the courses that this biology major would need to take that are important? And so there really was some biochemistry courses, the biotechnology courses, the short course I just talked about, and then an experiential learning. So those are the 3 components of the digital badge. And we chose to work with these digital badges because we can build a course out of them that actually we're doing with the short course. What students are going through, and there's a lot of reflection, it's a lot of contextualized learning outcomes. So they're going through looking at the learning outcomes that are important for these specific jobs and then going through and looking at their specific courses. Where did they pick up these skills? How are these skills different in the industry? And that's the contextualization piece that's going on in the seminar. And then we're bringing in industry mentors that help students work through these badges. As an example, then the biomanufacturing technician, this was done through the lens of a physics student. And so you can look at the crossover, what this physics student would need to take some biology courses, the intro biotech course, and then fulfill their investigative or their experiential learning with one of these different options that are listed here. So our goal is then to expand these badges. Our industry partners are really excited about them because we are able to develop them. One of the things is at a fairly fast pace, and that's where I think some of the big benefits. And Dion, how am I doing on time? I think I'm close to my 15 minutes. So the benefits of this is by creating these digital badges and really only bringing in one kind of 2 credit course, we're able to leverage the learning and the learning outcomes that the students are doing within their majors, and without requiring them to take a number of extra courses. We're able to bring these along very quickly because if we were to bring on a whole new set of coursework or a degree or certificate, trying to get that through the curriculum process at University of Washington you're talking about a 3-year process. And by that time, as we all know, things change so rapidly that that degree might not be relevant. So you can do things at an industry relevant timescale. Our students really have this kind of career connected learning experience where they're building awareness and understanding of what they're learning, how is it applied to industry entry level jobs. They're able to then learn the importance of focusing on professional skills. Our, our faculty have benefited greatly from this as well because they're understanding what opportunities exist for our students and thinking about ways in which they can contextualize some of the learning in their courses. And the college it's benefited greatly from this as well in terms of demonstrating the way in which we can have a complementary or relationship with our industry that if they're supporting us, we can support them. And it's benefited already in terms of philanthropic. It's in terms of them donating time and resources to us to help support our students and the people that are participating in these projects. So I think, yeah, there's my last slide. So this has been an exciting part. As I said, I'm teaching the research course right now, and we're enrolling our first set of students into the badges as a pilot. So by the end of the spring, we're really hoping to get some good feedback from our students and how they work through the process in these badges. And, the next step really is working with the industry and make sure they recognize these badges and help the student. And in our case, we think about these badges as a tool they get when they're issued by the University of Washington. They go straight onto the LinkedIn page, and that becomes a identifier for our students when they're applying and to HR that these students it's worthwhile interviewing these students for these jobs because at the end of it, our goal was these badges indicate that our students have the awareness and understanding of the skills they've acquired and can communicate those through an interviewing process. If they're hired, what our industry folks see as the onboarding time for these students would be significantly less. And so that's kind of the return on investment for them. They're still going to have to train them. They recognize that, but the piece of this awareness and understanding has been a benefit for them. So I'll stop there and turn it over to the next group.
Thank you, Guy. Our next Project Talk speakers are Terri Quenzer and Dominique Ingato. Their ATE presentation will focus on how the BILT model strengthens employer engagement and keeps biotechnology programs aligned with real workforce needs. Terri and Dominique, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Dominique Ingato, and I am a faculty member at Mira Costa College's Biotechnology Department in North County, San Diego. And I'm here with Terri, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Terri.
Hi, everyone. I'm Terri Quenzer. I'm with Dominique at Mira Costa College. I oversee the Bioscience Workforce Development Hub that's part of the biotech department at Mira Costa College, and I'm also a co-PI on the Innovate Bio grant.
Wonderful. So today we are here to share a little bit about our relatively new grant project on BILT, which stands for Business and Industry Leadership Teams for a new statewide industry advisory committee. And we can go ahead to the next slide. And before we jump into the specifics of the project itself, I wanted to share a little bit about the California Community College system and how many programs we have that are relevant to this project. So there are 116 California community colleges, and about 40 of these have biotech or biomanufacturing related programs. And depending on the program, students have different options to be trained and work their way into industry. So once students decide that they are going to go to the community college and focus on a bioscience field, they might complete a certificate or an associate's degree, and they might go right into employment in biotech and biomanufacturing right from there. Or they might transfer to a more traditional four-year school, such as a UC, a CSU, or another university before going into industry. or they might continue on at the community college to get a bachelor's degree in biomanufacturing. And we have a few colleges now throughout the state that offer this, including Miracosta College. And our goal with this project is to work with industry to best prepare our students to be able to enter industry prepared for their careers. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So, what are the challenges that we are facing? Community college faculty already have advisory boards that they work with, at least in these career education type programs. But there are areas for improvement still. So it's a challenge sometimes to find those correct industry partners who are going to be a good fit for the advisory board, are willing to engage, and are willing to assist us to make our programs as best as they can be. It's also a challenge to sometimes take that feedback and implement it in a timely manner because we all have limited bandwidth as faculty, and we're trying to find ways to incorporate those suggestions effectively and efficiently. From the industry side of things, they are often getting lots of requests for input, but these requests might be vague and they might not be told of the actions that are taken as a result of their feedback, which makes them less likely to engage and contribute to advisory boards. So we thought that it would be helpful if we could have a more systematic approach to engage industry subject matter experts, which we'll call SMEs, and find a way to have consistency in these curriculum updates, all at the statewide level that can be shared out. So through this project, we are working with CORD, the Center for Occupational Research and Development, who developed the Business and Industry Leadership Team Model. And this is straight from CORD, and it shows what a traditional BILT annual cycle might look like for their advisory board model. So they recruit dedicated BILT advisory board members who are committed to attending multiple meetings throughout the year and committed to serving for an extended period of time. And there's an orientation to welcome these members, explain the expectations in the BILT model, followed by a variety of other meetings that don't necessarily need to follow the order shown on the screen, but there should at least be a KSA analysis meeting. KSA stands for Knowledge, Skills, and Abilities, in which employers will rank which knowledge, skills, and abilities are most important for our graduates. And at this type of a meeting, faculty are asked to be observers. Rather than presenting and providing ideas, we need to sit back and listen to what industry has to say so we can take that down. And then at a feedback meeting, which you can see later on in the annual cycle, the faculty can then report to employers how they cross-reference these KSAs that were recommended from industry with our current curriculum and how we're going to make those changes and updates. There are also opportunities for trends meetings where employers and faculty can discuss emerging industry trends. Again, another opportunity for faculty to sit back as listeners and hear what industry has to say. And then opportunities to expand this engagement. So, like any good advisory board, we want to make sure we have engaged industry participants who are willing to go above and beyond to serve as guest speakers, adjunct faculty, etc. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide, Terri. And here I'm going to pass it to Terri to talk about how we are scaling up this model at the statewide level.
Thanks, Dominique. So this is such a successful model at the program level, and what Dominique was just describing is what a BILT advisory would look like for a CTE, a career technical education program. But there have been other examples and of different ways to scale this up, but this is a pretty novel approach, especially in the life sciences. So that is what this grant is all about. And since we are not experts at this, Dominique mentioned CORD, and that's the Center for Occupational Research and Development. Hope Kotner, who's the president of CORD, is also developed the BILT Academy, which is a way to train faculty and others to use a BILT model for their advisories. And Ann Beheeler, who is actually the creator of the BILT model, she did this in the IT industry first in the early 2000s. And she's director of innovation at CORD, and she and Hope are actually coaching and training us on how to do this, especially because there are differences at a state level than there would be at a single program level at a single college. And so what they are providing us with through this grant is the training and coaching for our statewide BILT advisory. So they're working directly with our project team. And then there's also going to be opportunities for faculty that might be interested in creating their own industry advisory into a BILT model. And so it could be anywhere from a 1-hour webinar online, which is the BILT 101. And then there's the BILT Academy, which takes the participants through a full annual cycle. So they get to do this with their own advisory. So we're looking, for year one and beyond. There's moving parts to this, and we don't know what everything is going to look like. So this is where we've realized we're going to just have to start taking steps and approaches and apply continuous improvement as we go through the grant cycles. And so we'll start and we already have started this process. So we have had 2 meetings so far to introduce both faculty and industry partners to the BILT model. And also we've begun recruiting industry members for the BILT, the statewide BILT. And faculty, all faculty in California with bioscience or related programs are invited to participate as well. And we also are inviting other stakeholders in the life sciences in California because they're a part of all of this, and they should be involved in getting to hear what's happening, learn about this, and this way they can talk about it too. And so for this first year, we're targeting foundational skills in biotechnology and biomanufacturing. So we're looking to target entry-level biotechnician and biomanufacturing training programs, looking at the KSAs, also the industry trends for hiring and the industry needs. And then we'll incorporate the curriculum updates. And then beyond the first year, what we really hope to gain out of this is we'd be able to identify and incorporate other areas of need into the BILT. So for example, we could do more with apprenticeship programs. We could look at credentials and micro-credentials and other things. And as we build this up, we'll have more industry involvement and industry engagement. And we all feel this is going to expand the awareness in industry of what the community colleges offer in terms of training and the value of the community colleges. So starting with the industry subject matter experts, we are seeking industry advisors that represent various fields and subspecialties within biotech, and those will naturally come out through the KSA assessment meetings, and we'll get to learn what's represented. We'll also be able to see what gaps there are, so it'll be a continuous improvement in terms also of recruiting industry members. And we want to engage in the industry trends, the KSA assessment, and the curriculum review. So we really want active industry members and subject matter experts that can address those areas that we're interested in, or bring in other members that colleagues of theirs that they know are subject matters and areas of interest to us. So some of those areas that I just mentioned, for example, the apprenticeships and cell and gene therapies is a new area, and Guy just gave a really great presentation of the training that they did. They did a pretty extensive analysis for the digital badges and the training they're providing. So we're looking in the subject matters we're looking for. We're also interested in upper management and C-suite members in industry, because they can identify people within their companies that have the specific expertise that we might be looking for. So we'll be looking in several areas, including our own partners, which we've already been doing. We'll ask our community college faculty if they want to make recommendations or nominations of their own industry advisory partners, so that will link their program to the state advisory and vice versa. And we also are looking for referrals from industry partners, and we'll be recruiting also through announcements on LinkedIn and other sites, Innovate Bio as well. So for faculty, all of the California Community College faculty that are interested and in related life science fields are welcome to participate, and they can all come to observe, and they don't all need to participate as far as the curriculum development, but we will be paying stipends for faculty that do want to participate, and they can use this for their own program. And they can develop new curriculum with it or modify existing curriculum. And I just put this in here as an example, the skill standards and curriculum for cell and gene therapy technicians, because the process that they used to create these new standards fairly recently, is very similar to what we'll be doing. So one of the challenges that we have and we're working out is how do we align the state BILT with program BILTs? Traditionally, going to the right side of this diagram, the community college biotech program advisory meetings typically meet once a year, maybe twice a year. And we're not asking that anybody change their program format for the BILT, but if there are faculty that are interested in converting their advisories to a BILT model, then we will be happy to provide training for them to do that. Otherwise, this could get integrated with their regular program advisories. And especially if we have their program partners participating on the state BILT, because if you look on the left and you look at all the meetings that could potentially happen for the state BILT, the main ones of interest to us for our industry advisory are the trends meetings. We're talking about current trends and future trends, and the KSA prioritization, and also the Crawford or the feedback meeting are really critical to have the industry partners at, because we need the engagement. The cross-reference meeting is mostly the faculty going back and checking the KSAs that were prioritized against what they're teaching with their curriculum. So industry are welcome to participate in that meeting, but they don't have to. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're trying to be mindful, because we're talking about 4 meetings a year. And then if an industry person is also on a program advisory and they have a BILT and they're doing 4 meetings a year, that gets to be a lot of time. And something I want to point out, because I'm not sure if we mentioned it, is that especially the KSA prioritization and the industry trends meeting, is that the industry partners, these meetings are designed for them to take care of all of the business we need from them during the meeting time. So we're not asking our industry partners to put in time outside of the meetings, but still that's a lot of meetings, and we're trying to work out how can we streamline it so that if there's an industry person that's on a program advisory and the state advisory, it also fits in their busy schedules. So we will be reporting on what our discoveries on this and best practices as these develop. And then the format of the meeting is that we will meet, the meetings will be open to anybody who wants to attend. We want this to be transparent. And we also know that the nation is going to be looking at us and watching what we do, because this can also apply to the state team initiative of Innovate Bio and help other state teams develop their own industry advisories. So we will be opening this. Visitors are welcome. The virtual meetings will be on Zoom, and we'll have 3 of those a year. And then we'll have 1 in-person meeting a year. And for that, we especially want to update the whole community on the trends that have been identified, the KSAs that have been prioritized, and the curriculum that's been developed. And the other part and reason for this in-person meeting once a year is because we want to facilitate relationship building between the faculty and the industry partners and all the stakeholders, because that'll just strengthen all of the development of the curriculum. And we believe that this is going to really help industry by seeing something tangible and productive in place for the training. It's going to encourage other companies that maybe hadn't considered hiring 2-year graduates, or those with less than a bachelor's degree, and even those with the bachelor's degrees and onward. We want to get them all into employment in the industry. So we think this will help. And this photo in this slide, this is the California team that was at the Innovate Bio Summit in 2023 in Washington, D.C. And it represents a very nice cross section of the community colleges, industry partners, and other stakeholders, including workforce investment boards and the state trade associations for life sciences. So I'm going to go ahead now and turn it over to Dominique, and she's going to talk a little bit more about how this could apply to your college.
Thanks, Terry. So, as Terry mentioned, while we won't require or force any colleges to implement the BILT at the local level, there are some colleges that are already undergoing this process. LA Pierce College is taking on a BILT model already. They actually already started theirs up and have had KSA meetings under the leadership of Aaron Kamanjaya over there, who's doing an excellent job. At MiraCosta, we are going to be starting up our BILT model in the summer, and I'll be taking the lead on that. We're excited to explore the BILT model with more of a focus on the upper division curriculum, so the biomanufacturing bachelor's degree level, whereas the statewide BILT will focus more at the lower division, at least for these early cycles of the grant. So for other colleges that are interested in taking this on, like Terry said, we have opportunities to get you trained in the BILT model if this is something that you're interested in doing at the local level. And we can go ahead to the next slide and just talk about some of our expected outcomes. So as you know, we're in the early stages of all this, so we don't have much data yet, but we do have some bullet points of what we hope to see. So we're hoping that our work is going to result in increased industry engagement, commitment, and retention through the very intentional design of the BILT model, through increased faculty industry partnerships. We are aiming for a set of KSAs and improved curriculum that's updated annually and is open access. So if, for example, I'm updating curriculum at MiraCosta through this grant project, I'm going to be sharing that out statewide. We hope for increased alignment of community college bioscience curriculum at both the state and local levels, and improvement in student employment. We already have great employment rates, but we can see this skyrocket even further and have students even better prepared to enter the industry. And then lastly, we are going to be able to share out this process for other statewide BILTs, not even necessarily within biotech, but any statewide program that is interested in taking on the BILT will now have a model to provide as a starting point. And with that, we'll go ahead and thank you for attending and listening today. We wanted to give a special thanks to the folks on the screen here, Marilyn, Lisa, Kevin, and Sheila, for providing some input to us with their experience with BILT as we're starting to design things. And we also just wanted to highlight some photos of some of our students working in the industry, using their skills, and this is what we do it for. So with that, we'll wrap up and I suppose take questions.
Yes, thank you for
Terri and Dominique. And before I open it up to questions, I did notice that there were two in the chat. Yingsu's question was answered during the presentation. She had asked if there are community colleges in California using the BILT model. And Terri and Dominique, I believe you mentioned Pierce and MiraCosta.
Yes, that's correct. So Pierce is already using it, and MiraCosta will be starting up very soon.
Very, very good. And then Linnea had a question. She asked if you all have received pushback on how many meetings the BILT has in a year.
Not yet, because right now we're in the process of recruiting industry, and so far they seem open to it. But this is something that still could come up as far as the number of meetings. But it is something that's noticed. People do notice that, wow, that's a lot of that seems like a lot of meetings.
And there was another question related to the BILT. Is there an application process to join BILT?
For the faculty, on the faculty side and administrator side, no, We will be sending out invites to everybody at the colleges in this state, and you are welcome to come and participate and watch. And we are also jointly sharing the curriculum and the outcomes of this with Innovate Bio as well. So a lot of this will also be accessible through the Innovate Bio website and also directly through us. So you will be invited and you will have the opportunity to attend and then let us know if you're interested. And we have, we're looking, especially on the industry side, we're looking for industry subject matter experts that can speak to the needs for these positions. I mean, I came from industry. I worked in drug discovery and did R&D. So my whole, all the people I knew from industry before I came over into this role would not have been necessarily, most of them would not have been the right people to have on a BILT because they wouldn't be able to speak to those specific positions. So that's what we're looking for from the industry side. And on the faculty side, any faculty that are willing to help us incorporate those KSAs into curriculum and maybe even, expand our list of KSAs that we present to our industry advisors. We'll share the list that we have and with the faculty, and faculty can add other things that should be considered. And so there will be opportunities, and for the faculty that do help us with the curriculum incorporation and development, there will be stipends.
So I have a question for Guy. So Guy, considering your area is probably changing or advancing rapidly in terms of techniques and knowledge, do you see any changes from when you started your project to now in terms of what is needed on the job?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think that's part of the impetus or the work that we've done with this industry is less about, okay, they're less worried about specific skills because they're changing so rapidly, and particularly, um, and this is what comes from Life Science Washington, what we're seeing is the AI machine learning piece is really blowing up in our area, just because of our workforce. And so we're already thinking of like a new badge in terms of one, our bioinformatics, data science, like those types of skills are really really increasing in demand. And so it supports too this idea of we can develop new badges fairly quickly now that we have a framework and now that we've built a core of faculty. The next ones, like the lift to build these, is going to be significantly less. So I guess the answer is yes, and I think that's why these badges are attractive to our industry partners, that we can do something quickly rather than kind of the laborious trying to build a whole new program type of pathway.
Well, that's great to know. That would be a great article, the fact that these are being used to put in those kind of advancements rapidly. I think
Yeah,
that's a real plus for the credentials.
I
Thank
agree.
you. Wendy has her hand up.
I'd like to say that I'm on Erin's BILT committee, and I've been through 2 meetings so far. And those of us in the LA area, we have 17 out of the 19 colleges that have some programs, 2 that have baccalaureates. And Erin is certainly up for sharing. So I would say that the easiest thing is just get a hold of that man and tell him you want to play with his BILT committee, and you'll get to see it from the inside.
Yeah, that's a great point because you'll get to actually see a program built running, and Aaron is extremely collaborative. He's been inviting us to his meetings, and we've got to see how they're run at a program level. And once you see that first KSA prioritization meeting where the industry votes on the KSAs, and Hope Kottner facilitates that meeting, and she keeps industry quiet. She really gives, or not industry, I'm sorry, she keeps the faculty in listen only mode, and she really allows the industry to have their full discussions. And so it's eye-opening to see these meetings, and we'll invite you to ours. And if you can go to Erin's, I strongly suggest you do, or Dominique's when she gets hers going.
Yes, you're all invited.
Noelia, I see your hands up.
Thank you so much. And I apologize in advance if you hear the kids playing in the background. Everybody's on spring break. So I've got a little one who's playing right here. Um, this is this is just absolutely so exciting. I think one of the areas that this is um, so impactful is that industry-led input for curriculum, which is something that we've been trying to build for our own program. Um, I'm sure you all have had this experience where, uh, I mean, we're trying to meet the needs of a biotech career readiness program. Um, and most of us who are teaching at community college, we're coming at it from the academic research perspective. And I think there's a lot for us to learn about the industry lens when we're building curriculum. I think that is one of the pieces that I'm really excited about. So East LA College is here to play, so we'll join in. Thank you for sharing this opportunity about the BILT program.
The
And
interesting,
yeah,
the interesting thing, Noelia, is that you and Erin are both part of the 9 college district, and that makes your life so much harder because there are so many levels uh, of interest, if you will, to put it nicely. So as a reformed academic, I'm on, because of the way we work the money to create programs, I'm on everybody's advisory board. And I'm so pleased that you showed up this morning.
thank you so much.
And
You know, all of these are publishable ideas, the built. And then, Guy, I think you should really publish. Are you being forced to publish now that you're at a four-year school?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think well, I think publishing, bringing more money in is what I'm being forced to do.
Yeah. But I
But
do think it's a good model for emerging technologies. I
yeah,
always modularize my curriculum, but I hadn't thought about associating the modules that I change out with a micro credential, and I think that would be really worthwhile.
I think too. I don't know if your school has a like that was one of the benefits for us. We already had a contract with a badging company.
We do.
Yeah, so that streamlines things, if it's like and having your school and the logo, it really gives it some weight that's what our partners appreciated. And so that it was leveraging something that already existed that makes it quick and easy. And the students, I think the secondary benefit too is it really calls out for students that you are getting a skill that is aligned with this particular job. And, I think we probably all know, I mean, that's a challenge in terms of the awareness and understanding that our graduates have, like what are the jobs? Because the names don't necessarily align or make them think of biotechnology. When you see, a quality control technician, that doesn't sound like a biotech job. And so that's a really helpful thing as well in terms of you're connecting these things, these skills to these jobs, and that's what they can think about. I'd say too, particularly, it's different than when I was at Shoreline University. Our students, particularly those in like biology, chemistry, physics, they don't think they're in a, say, applied science degree, like as opposed to like our engineers and CS students, they all assume they get jobs with this degree, right? Biology and chemistry, they think, oh, pre-med, or maybe I'll go to grad school, or, I'll teach or do something, but whatever it is, I'm going to go get additional education to get those advanced degrees. Where this is really helping them understand, no, there you can get hired with these degrees, right? You just have to be able to kind of recognize where the jobs are, and if you get an interview, you have to be able to speak about the skills you've acquired and how they relate to those jobs. Anyway.
That's a whole nother point, Guy, that I think is really good with the micro credentials because our students, sometimes when you ask them after they finish a course that had PCR and you ask them what they did and everything, we haven't done a good job of packaging the information for them so they can talk about it in the interview, and a micro credential will. So I feel like I'm making a list of all the positives for doing micro credentials in your courses. Thank
And
you.
that's 100%. That's what if I had shown you like the Canvas course where we do the badge. It's we worked with the hiring folks and saying what are the skills, and then you give it to the students, and they have to then describe how they've done things related to that. And so it's a lot of self-reflection and kind of so they contextualize their own experiences.
Thank you. Susan has a question.
Yeah, it's less of a question, more of a comment. So what we worked on is that, a lot of times the credential worked as much as the school. So people tend to hire from Harvard more than from an Egyptian university. And that they assume that people trained in Harvard are better. So what we did is we actually developed an AI program we call the ISOP, which actually assessed the skills. So we did it with John Grimaud, who was head of training at Genentech, and or head of AI, who came from Amazon. And we built this program that it's based on assessing the actual skills and give you a transparent credential. So I would like to work with anybody who's interested exploring it further. We are working on it at Open Biopharma, but I think this could create a transparent credential where two things. So one is that you can assess if they really learned it, besides just going through the class, and it gives them also a transparent document. And we're working with students who don't necessarily interview well, for example, students on the spectrum. This could give them a way to demonstrate that they actually competent in the skill that they went through. So he would like to combine the ISOP with the so-called micro-credential as a transparent tool to provide proof of competency.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your hand is up. I see that hand.
Hi, I just wanted to share really quickly because Guy, your presentation also made me think of the work that we're doing with biotech in competency-based education. So we are one of the teams through the Chancellor's Office that is developing CBE specifically for biotechnology. And the micro-credentialing and those badges that you're sharing really resonate when I think about what we're being asked to do, which is translate curriculum, course outlines of records into competencies, competency statements, and determine how evaluating the level of mastery. So being able to take components of the competencies and then have these badges, I think is like this twofold, really a twofold purpose to get us to identify those competencies and then have the students as they move along. There's a certain set of, let's say, badges that gets you to, mastery of this particular area. So I'd love to chat more with you about those badges and how, you all developed them. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, happy. Ping me and then we can have a follow-up meeting and talk more about it.
Okay, thank you so much to our Project Talk speakers, Guy, Terri, and Dominique. And thank you to our participants as well for joining and contributing to our discussion. I have dropped the evaluation link a few times in the chat, and I'll drop it. I just dropped it again. Again, as previously mentioned, more information on these two featured project talks can be found on the Innovate Bio website, as well as future project talks. I wish everyone has a peaceful weekend and a great Easter celebration. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was great.
Thank you. Bye, Terri.
Bye. Thanks, Twin.